What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I like to continue on the discussion on living in the end and the importance of really wearing that identity of it's already done. Because what tends to happen is our old assumptions, beliefs, just our faith basically in what we believe reality to be starts to become pushed out and then reflected back to us. It's almost like whatever you think about a person, you are right about them because that's what you experience them as, and the more you believe it, the more that assumption gets mirrored back to you. But the more that you're able to start to change your beliefs, really live in the new creation that you are, and really throw out the old paradigm, the more and more you start to realize that the old beliefs and the old assumptions and all this is starting to confront you in the present moment, and you can start to be reactive to it. And the problem with that is as you kind of fight against it and as you battle against it, and you start looking at all the shit and you're just day basically, it's like yours really only ever now, but like throughout your day, how much shit are you fighting against? It's like you fight against, like, if you're going to work, you trying not to be late, fighting against the traffic and trying to survive, and then you get to your job and maybe you're in a position where it's like you got people underneath you and it's just like you're battling against, like, trying, we really gotta stop the fighting against shit kind of vibe, and it has to, it's so common, and it's almost like normal to constantly just be attacking things and like railing against things, and this is good and this is bad, and so I'm gonna fight against this. But as you fight and put vengeance mentality is very common in that kind of state of being, which is really reflective of the old man, where everything is under this illusion of separation. But the more that you start to go within and you start to see the connected nature of everything, and it's like you're sitting here having even just vengeance thoughts, you just want to attack people, maybe they've wronged you, or maybe they've just been so blatantly stupid that it's just like annoying, and it's like, oh, you just want to just attack this person and just whatever, I want them to change, I want to manipulate them, and all that kind of stuff. Start to make the change inwardly, though. It's one thing, especially if you're dealing with maybe like a psychopath, that seems to just constantly just be an energy drain. Really you start kind of paying attention to your own energy, and you can kind of feel these draining situations and draining behaviors and draining people, and not to sit there and judge it, but to look at it objectively and realize that person is reflecting an assumption or a belief, or something going on within your consciousness. Because the more that you start to really become present and still and really go on a spiritual path, you start to realize how much the physical reality that the bubble of reality, your perception of it at least, is constantly being your inner world being outpictured. And the old man didn't make that connection, and then starts battling against these situations and circumstances, which then, it's like if you're battling somebody, your peace is now being broken as you're sitting there attacking them. And really you're only hurting yourself, because most people don't even care. Most people are and they're, I was talking to my brother today, and he's working on flipping his house, and he was working on some flooring, and he's just like, yeah, I don't think this flooring's too bad. I don't think people really look down when they walk and really inspect things like that. He's trying to like flip his house and to sell it, and it's like, well, it's the same thing with ceilings. Most people don't ever look up unless there's a big water spot or something, or somebody just like makes it like me just mentioning it, maybe somebody, oh well, look at the ceiling, but like I was even talking to him, it's like, yeah, most people are focused on what's right in front of their face, and even when you speak to them, I think most people only hear every third word you say, and they just kind of just get a sense of what you're saying anyway, and then just making some weird connection and just going on their way. And part of like creating these boundaries is when you're confronted with the opposite, when you're confronted with a belief from the old man. I think a little clarity on acceptance because we're, all these words, are just symbols, and we are, defining these words. Biblically, you can look at the Bible, to define what these words mean. The Bible defines itself, and so there's, maybe some, trying to relearn and maybe get some clarity on, different words. That's a good kind of, see how it's used and whatnot. But, when it comes to acceptance, as far as I'm concerned, it's like, being able to be objective, and, if you're confronted by something from the past, which is your old self, your old beliefs and your old assumptions and your old faith and, separation and whatever. And, when that presents itself, part of like acceptance is not to sit there and just say, oh, well, this is just my stake in life. I'm just going to be abused every single moment of now and drained of energy constantly by just annoying fucking situations. And that's just my lot in life. But like when you get more into acceptance, it's like saying, oh, well, that's just an old belief asserting itself. What I actually want is the opposite of what that just happened. It's like do you want the opposite to continuously happen to you, or you want what you actually want, which is love, to become more and more manifest in your reality? It's like, you already had the situation where there's more and more fear being manifested, which is ultimately the nature of the old man, is as the fear starts to develop, and with the belief of separation, that starts to concrete more and more so into reality, and as you start to change, your belief in separation, and really start to be taught by the Spirit, which is within you, and start this new, basically letting the old paradigm of reality go and really being taught what the new paradigm actually even means and is and everything else. And that doesn't come from, oh, somebody out here in the Maya is telling me what to do. You got to go within to really start to track this shit down, and through your own knowledge and experience, wisdom, is by your own, being shown through experience, to know what it is. It's like, oh, you can read a book about playing guitar for 10 years. You can just sit around just reading magazines. I'm like, looking at theory, and oh yeah, this makes some. Oh, you use this gauge of strings, and oh, what kind of. Oh, we're gonna get a nice little pick, and we're gonna. But until you actually sit down and play it, you're just daydreaming, I guess. I mean, you're not doing it. It's so much different when you actually just commit to it and go for it and do it. But like, in creating like these boundaries, if some triggered, person, which is representing maybe something within you that is on the verge of just being released, instead of like them being, mindless and irritating, then that makes you then all of a sudden triggered. Now you're acting mindlessly and irritated, and kind of matching frequencies with that. Just keep that high ground in the present moment. Accept that, okay, well, that's a limiting belief, obviously, or that's symbolic. A lot of times, like with your spouse or significant other, or maybe in like the manifesting crowd, specific persons and stuff like that. It's like you're very, very very close people, a lot of times are representing, how you treat yourself, especially like a romantic thing. It's like how you're treating yourself gets mirrored by your partner. And a lot of times that's like hard to hear, but when you really start to take responsibility for your life and everything going on in it, everything is a manifestation. This is always happening regardless. It's either you're doing it unconsciously and just creating these loops, these feedback loops, unknowingly, or you can start to understand how things work and, start to be the change. And as you be the change, as you inwardly make the change, you'll start to see that being projected, on the screen of space, basically. And people, situations, everything, it starts turning around, things start changing. It's and that through personal experience, by witnessing it with your own eyes. It's like you can't be told by anybody that hasn't experienced it. It's like, oh, well, you're just blah blah blah. It's like, I could care less what that, it's like, that's like you saying you don't know what you're talking about with playing the guitar. It's like, oh, I've only been playing it for, I don't know, 15 something or 20 years. I don't even know how long anymore. Barely even keep track of how old I am. But it's like, it's all part of it. It's like you don't need you don't need external validation. You don't need somebody out here. It's all within you. And as you start to develop that more and more, where you're able to put these boundaries up. When the undesired, when these things happen, part of the acceptance is not to connect with that old nature, but just, okay, well, there it is. Obviously there's the contrast, but instead of like being triggered and spin out because of it, well, here's an opportunity to move in a new direction. I'm going to, okay, well, I see some obnoxious behavior. Well, what's the end state? Well, the end state, if you were in heaven, would you want to constantly be dealing with this kind of shit? So start getting more into that alignment, by, recognizing it, accepting that it's there, but not just, saying, oh, well, this is just my lot, and this is, how things are just always going to be, because I don't deserve to be treated well. I just deserve to be a punching bag, or, somebody just draining, being a drain 24/7. You gotta start changing your concept of self. It's like, if you were in heaven, would you think it'd be okay for eternity for you just to be drained of energy and like dealing with assholes and stupid upside down situations? And part of that might be like judging, but like but the other part of it too is like, well, part of this journey before getting to this point is learning right and wrong, experiencing the contrast, and what's discernment about if you can't say one or the other, so it's like, what fear is, because that's what you were, and that you're not fear, so that you are the opposite, which is love. What does that mean? It's like, well, finding out as this thing unfolds exactly what that means. But until then, put up that boundary, and it's like, well, when the opposite's confronting you, don't react to it. Start to, instead of reacting, stay in that it's only ever now. What's the end state? Peace and joy and love. That's what you want. It's like, well, that person will eventually start to reflect that, as I don't sit here and judge them, because then I'll start to push out onto them, and then start to come back onto you, because we're all connected, and we're all, in some, we're all one in some level, and what that exactly means without being too triggering, it's like you find out what this means through experience, and with that experience, then you're able to get the understanding, but with that being said, I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention to, create the boundaries when the shit's, kind of just getting in your face, and stand strong, because, you got to, you got to love yourself, you got to treat yourself kind. And, if you keep getting these situations, it might be a good red flag that you aren't treating yourself very well. And, somebody is mirroring that back to you as a way to go, all I got to do is maybe treat myself nicer. Start doing maybe one thing every day for however long, maybe an hour, or however long it takes you, that you just enjoy life while you're doing it. Start focusing on that, because it's so... I think part of this old man is just constantly just being a slave to this external world. It's like, somebody over here wants me to do this. Somebody over here wants me to do that. Oh, the government wants you to do this. Your doctor wants you to do that. This guy wants me to do that. And your banker wants you to do... All these outside people wanting something from you. But what do you want? Start asking, what do you want today? Fuck tomorrow. What do you want today? And do something like that you can connect with God and connect, with the moment, and start to really feel some peace and joy just in doing that. Take that little bit for yourself, and recharge your battery, because it's so easy when you're just drifting, just getting drained and drained and drained and drained, trying to do what you believe to be right, is one thing, but when you're just getting to the point where it's just exhausting. Nobody else is exhausted because they found somebody who just do everything for them. Oh, basically you are now become their little puppet to manifest their desires. Who cares what you think? If you're just going to just blindly just go, put the brakes on. We're all, divine spiritual beings, and we, if someone's pushing that line, pushing what in your heart to be over the line, and you don't say nothing, you're just allowing it. You're giving your power away to a shadow, basically. And so instead of just being at the whim of the shadow world, say no. Start to say no more often. If you go through your entire day and you don't say no to somebody's demands one time, today you start doing one hard no. One hard no, put a boundary up, and if they get offended, that's their problem, not your problem. They need to be self-aware too. As part of this thing is, love comes from within. You got to start developing that connection more and more, and then don't be surprised when all of a sudden the mirror of reality then starts to show you that state, because really you're always experiencing the state of being that you're occupying, and sometimes that state can be a fucking just a headache, but it's as easy to start to get out of it as just choosing to do something different. And part of the allowing is it came up, okay, I'm not going to get reactive to it. I'm not going to sit here battle with it and strengthen it. I'm just going to let it go, and I'm going to choose differently, and I'm going to be in the state that it's already done, because God's already said that He's given us everything. So the only reason to this cycles of waiting and I'm going to be in linear time and this and this and this. It's like live in the end. Embody the end, because God already said that it's yours, that ask, believe, receive is yours. And with that, so much of it is just nope, I don't believe it, and I'm going to push it away, and I'm just going to sit here and suffer instead. Getting out of that kind of loop, involves, for one, setting up the boundary, saying no, and really honoring how you feel. When people are draining and shit like that, as you start to kind of make that interconnection first, take care of your own state of consciousness, be the change that you want to see, and realize, how often that when people are being difficult and annoying and just sometimes so brain dead that it's just shocking. It's like, I'm surprised you can tie your shoes. but when you get these, and then you start attacking them in your mind, maybe feeling superior, or maybe not even feeling superior. It's just like you just want them not to be behaving like a whatever, but you're sitting there attacking them in your head. Meanwhile, as you're doing that, all you're doing is giving up your peace. It's like, it is absolutely unhelpful. It doesn't do anything for you. It only hurts you as you're doing now. So the more that you catch yourself just in these patterns of just like attacking people in your mind, it's like, well, I should, when maybe you failed at creating a boundary, or you didn't say no, and now you're triggered about it, and it's like, how dare that person, try to, doesn't they understand what that does to me? Doesn't that see, don't they care what kind of burden now that puts on me? And, all these kinds of things where, you're just going over it over and over in your mind about it. It's just like, wait a second, this is for one, not helpful. It's for two, this is not solving the problem, only strengthening the problem. And no, guess what? Now it's becoming more and more manifest in my reality, more and more difficulties and irritations, and more people reflecting this kind of behavior. When you can take a big step back, okay, that happened. Obviously, it's showing some sort of something that you're reminiscent of the old man that just needs to be addressed. And we're going to address it right now. In the end state, in Barbados, as like Neville Goddard's teacher Abdullah would say, would that state of being be what you would like to experience? What would you desire to experience instead? Well, it'd be great if people, had common sense and were actively trying to empower others and do good things, and just be cheerful and what do you want? What do you desire? When you're confronted with the opposite and you're reacting to it, what would you like instead? Well, you live in that end. How would you feel if that was real? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel joyful thinking about that? If that fucking asshole that you got to deal with every day at work is like all of a sudden just not an asshole anymore, and you don't got to deal with it. Maybe they got transferred, or maybe they just or something, they just come in with a totally different state of mind. It's crazy how fast these things start to change, and as you just make the change inwardly first. So it starts to become more and more like, why am I sitting here attacking this other person instead of just like, how would I feel if that was just not even a problem anymore? No, guess what? It's not a problem anymore. God resolved that problem. I just need to be still. And God did figured it out. All you got to do is just let it go. Accept, when it came, okay, we accept it. It just happened. I'm not going to sit here and battle against it and rail against it and just feel like a victim and everything else. I'm going to stop. Okay, still now. And this is not what would it be like in Barbados. Just like keep putting yourself in that end state of being. If you're in heaven, this doesn't seem like a very heavenly situation. So, what would the alternative be? And how would I feel as a result? And start to embody that state now. Live in that end is very important, but it's a big, the more your faith is, the stronger your faith is, the easier it is to not be swayed by the 3D world, which is entirely what the old man is about. And that's part of that drifting and being led off the cliff of the 3D is constantly being reactive to the shadow world, which then just amplifies the state more and more and more, and so start to catch that pattern faster and faster. And other than that, I think I'm about. So thanks for listening, everybody, and have a good rest of your now. I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all that kind of stuff. And till the next now, God bless.